Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for coming. It's me, Ed McKinley, up here in the Northeast. I live a little north of Boston. Sometimes if I'm talking to people throughout the country, they go, where you from? I'll go, oh, I'm from Boston. But I'm not actually from Boston. I live north of Boston. I don't actually live in Boston. I don't know. I thought you might want to know. So here's what I'm doing tonight. I don't know if any of you have been watching any of the sporting events on TV. And as you know, with the pandemic, wisely, I would imagine, people have... Hey, Derek. People have decided in order to play football games and other sports, it wasn't a good idea to fill those stadiums up with a whole bunch of thousands of screaming fans. So what they've been doing, this is like really kind of weird in a way. But maybe it would be even weirder if they didn't do it, I'm not sure. So they're piping music, not music, but they're piping crowd sounds into the stadiums and the other venues where games are being played. And obviously, I don't know if that has a lot of impact for the players. I think it's more for the viewers at home who they feel might get weirded out if there was absolutely no noise at all from any fans. And it was just, to be honest with you, I think part of the problem is some of those players have pretty foul mouths on them. They like to talk smack with each other. So who knows? Maybe that's part of the reason, is to sort of cover up what really goes on out there that we don't get to hear normally. Anyways, I decided why not? Why can't I have that? I can't have a huge crowd here. My office space here is relatively small. And even if there were no COVID restrictions, even if there was no pandemic at all, getting, a crowd that can make this kind of sound available in my office would be very impractical. So I think I'm going to try it for a night, and people can weigh in. If you like it, you don't like it. If you think it's too over the top, too under the top, or if you think it's just right, let me know. I mean, I can go either way on this. I don't really have to have fake crowd noise in order to do the live stream a couple nights a week. But, I really just come out here. I'm just another bozo on the bus like everybody else out here. Maybe I have a little bit more knowledge or a little deeper understanding of some of the underpinnings of this, only because I've been doing it for a long time. And I know that everybody out there is in a different place in how long ago you may have borrowed, what you've experienced so far, and, where you are at in your awakening to the reality that this was not, as it turned out, a matter of you being an irresponsible borrower who, for some reason, decided to borrow all this money to go to school and get a degree in paper bag making and eat pizza and sleep late and smoke a lot of weed and contribute nothing to society, because, as we all know, that's what everyone who goes to college and borrows money to go to college does. No, I don't think that's really true. But you know what? Here's the kicker. Maybe there are. You know what? Thinking back, the first couple times I tried to go into college, I actually might have been one of those people, but I hadn't borrowed any money yet. So I guess you could say, well, if I want to throw my money down the drain. But, we have a thing called the Constitution. And a very important amendment in the Constitution calls for uniform bankruptcy protections. There was a reason. There are some very good reasons that amendment was entered into that document pretty close to the top of the list. You see, our forefathers and other colonists and merchants were being bled dry by usurious predatory debt by the Crown of England and other European merchants. And I think really you'd probably find that that was the most catalytic point in forming the American Revolution. So yeah, those guys knew how important this was. They knew that in the event that this country developed a credit-based economy, which it has, certain safeguards would absolutely have to be cooked into that economy to discourage, hopefully prevent, lenders and powerful institutions from exploiting the borrowers. And it's had mixed results. Overall, I mean, I would say that with the majority of consumer credit debt, I can't say that it is in no way lopsided towards collection agencies and financial institutions. It truly is, without a doubt. But not until it was finally acted on and decided and then acted on to remove these protections uniquely from student loans did we begin to realize how incredibly important that it was to keep this within the context of the Constitution, which called for uniform, not, we'll throw some there and a little bit in there. We'll throw out bankruptcy protections for people who buy Toyotas, but not the ones who buy Nissans. That may sound like a little bit of hyperbole, but think about it. We have people out there who probably really are the much closer to resembling the mythical creature of the college student who eats pizza, drinks beer, smokes weed, borrows money, majors in basket weaving, or, more importantly, the mythical creature that was created when Congress first began to discuss, debate, introduce, and then pass legislation removing bankruptcy protections. And this is how bad it is when one myth, one urban legend can begin to take root in the United States legislature, and that was that a lot of professionals, doctors, lawyers, dentists, etc., people who were expected to earn significant incomes when they left college, they were said at that time that to be going in droves. I don't remember what numbers we used, but they were very high. People going in droves to directly to bankruptcy court, straight from the graduation ceremony. And so we had to, if we want to continue to be able to offer an opportunity of education to people in this country, and we want to eliminate any conceivable or possible risk to the lenders who can charge very steep interest rates and penalties and fees. Stop me when it reaches a point where you realize how nonsensical all of this really was. We would need to remove those consumer protections that we apply to the other lending instruments, credit cards, mortgages, installment debt, your car, whatever. It was never true. That was a mythical creature. It was an urban legend, or whatever you would call it. And quite frankly, when an accountability from the Government Accounting Office was able to take the time to filter through the information and break down the numbers, less than 1% of all borrowers for student debt, when bankruptcy protections were still available, had ever even applied. It was a complete made-up thing that was used as leverage to convince our lawmakers, or either to convince them or to give them something to use as cover for passing legislation that removed these protections. And here we are. So, in that context, I think that it's really important to get to, the reality that, even if you were that mythical, that 1 in 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 who went to school on borrowed money and lost your way and drank beer and smoked pizza and ate weed. I know what I just said. Um, you know what? If you went out, there are people out there that go out with credit cards, whether they be business cards, personal cards, and charge up tens of thousands of dollars in entertainment, gambling, and travel, etc. And guess what? When things get tough or things get tight, what do you think they do? Well, they file for bankruptcy. And who pays for that? Well, we all kind of pay for it. I mean, the cost of doing business, the cost of supporting a consumer-based credit, consumer credit-based economy is that we all pay a little extra for that pool to be able to allow bankruptcy protections to exist. But it's kind of like insurance. It's like we buy insurance so that one credit instrument cannot dominate the lives of millions of people, which, of course, we know student loans do. So, over the last 14, 15 years, I've spent a lot of time working on trying to convince Congress to undo and the damage they've done and restore what I believe to be the constitutionally guaranteed uniform bankruptcy rights. And I would love to be able to sit here and tell you that, that's all set, it's done, and we finished up, a number of years ago, and there's nothing to worry about. But that's not the reality. This is a fight. This is not going to be a short fight. But we've made a lot of progress. We've got bills in both chambers of the legislature. One bill that has been finally voted out of the committee that it was in. We have never come this far. We have presidential candidates who are openly endorsing the idea of cancellation of enormous amounts of student loan debt. No, we don't entirely agree with their plans. There are some problems. But it has become part of the mainstream dialogue, and we have driven that. There are many of us. There are 50 to 60 million people who have signed on the dotted line, either directly or as a co-signer, for predatory student loan debt, and up to 80% of them, by the admission of the gentleman who was in charge of the federal lending program, will never be able to repay that debt. We know 50 to 60% at least are in serious distress. 40 to 50% could very well be in default. Yet this system continues to take in new pigeons every year, right at the admission office. And nobody seems to have taken enough interest, not only to help the people that have already been damaged, but to stop from continuing to inflict this damage on others. So everything else that I've done has brought us to this point where this is how I've decided that I'm going to fight. I'm not going to roll over and play dead, or I'm not going to continue to enable this system. And I'm going to fight here with Alan Collins and many others who through studentloanjustice.org have taken a lot of their time engaging in activities either individually, a small group, or with the group as a whole. And so I'm going to do what I do a lot of nights when I come out here. I'm going to reestablish my call out to the group and calling everyone out there out who has not yet gotten off the bench and gotten in the game to come on in, because this is it. We're the only grassroots group of any significance that I'm aware of in the country who is seriously fighting this fight and seriously cutting through the bullshit and seriously making progress. And the main thing now stopping us from reaching our ultimate goal, which cancellation of all student loan debt is nothing to sneeze at. Neither is return of bankruptcy protections, by the way. So Alan here has posted the link to our petition. Remember the petition? Have I mentioned that when I've been here before? Okay, well, the petition, it started off with absolutely no signatures at all, because we hadn't put it out there yet. And then it had like a couple 100,000 signatures, and we're going, well, that's pretty good. I mean, then we got up like past 250,000, and there were a couple points when it really started to slow down, and we kept pushing it, and maybe some people will go, oh my gosh, this thing is played out, give it a rest. No, we didn't, because we know the value. We know what a strong petition like this can do for us. And to make a short story long, we're now well over 750,000 signatures. That's over 720,000, well, close to three quarters. I think 725. That includes a few occasions when it looked like things were really slowing down and we kept pushing. And what I got to say is those of you out there who have engaged in getting the word and getting the link to this petition out there, I mean, my God, it's amazing. And I, feel I have to ask you to please keep doing whatever it is that you've done. Go back to places you posted in the past. You know how Facebook and other social media is. It rotates. What's relevant for a day or two will be gone tomorrow. Because we've had days where in 24 to 48 hour periods, we've had over 100,000 signatures suddenly come in. Which tells me that there's somebody and some persons out there that are really doing the right thing. It also tells me that if we had more people doing it, we'd be up over 1 million by this weekend. And I don't think that would be really even close to our limit. Now, let me tell you why this is important. Because it's leverage. It's a leverage instrument. It's something that helps us gain and sustain credibility when we're talking to media. We've increased our media exposure since we've been doing this. We've increased the membership of our group. We have increased our leverage with lawmakers and their staff. We are seeing tangible activity on behalf of very powerful people in Washington that, while, who knows, it could be lip service today. But we couldn't even get the lip service on public not more than a year or two ago. So they're feeling it. They're feeling something from us and from other borrowers that is compelling them to the point that they are finally willing to clarify to the rest of the world that we're not a fringe group. We're not just a bunch of mythical characters who borrow money to go to school and just don't feel like paying it back. Nothing can be further from the truth. I know so many of the people that I have encountered that have been members of this group or in other ways have supported our endeavors. I know so many other people who are struggling tremendously with this debt load. So many that are contributors, nonetheless, to their communities, to their families, and to this country. They work, they pay taxes, and they struggle with their student loan debt. In most cases, they've paid back far more than they borrowed, and yet carry balances that still equal and surpass what they borrowed. Something's wrong here. No one else is going to fix it unless we speak up loud enough and in large enough numbers, at which point it will in fact change. So I'm mostly stressing pushing the petition. If you're looking for the link, it's right here on this page and all over our Facebook page. There is, every day Alan has been putting out tasks that anyone can do in under 30 seconds. That may make it sound like they're somewhat trivial. They're not. Sure, if we ask you to send... wait a minute. We're having technical problems. Okay. So, if we only have 10 or 15 people sometimes responding to these requests to retweet an article or a letter or a message, yeah, we might look like a bunch of stooges. But when we start getting into the hundreds and then into the thousands, folks, I'm just telling you right now, if the way to get legislators to take real action on this issue is to make sure they know that we're here, we're growing in number, we're organizing, and we are in a cohesive strategy. And we vote. We have the kind of numbers capable of virtually electing a president, but absolutely of impacting the outcome of virtually any election nationwide or in any state in this country. Please do not underestimate the power as a borrower, whether your loans are paid off, whether you're in default, regardless, it doesn't matter. Do not dismiss or minimize the power that we have as a political group of people. And people who are, by and large, far and large, people raising families and struggling to live within the context of the American dream, while having their airwaves cut off by the most predatory, corrupt, and frankly disgusting lending instrument in the history of this country. Folks, please take up the causes, the tasks that Alan asks every day. I can't even tell you how important they are. I can't stress the value that it creates for us when, whether it be Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Jill Biden, anybody, whoever it is we've chosen that day, sees 1,000 and up, and we should have many more than that, in a tweet or an email or a text or any other electronic or written message done in a cohesive, collaborative way. That is what gets a politician's attention. Two things that get him attention: money and massive votes of blocks of votes. Sometimes those two things are interchangeable, or often they are. So I'm well over my allotted time slot. I could go on, as you could probably tell. I've had a long day. I'm tired. I didn't prepare what I have out here today. I'm talking from the heart, from the head, and trying to keep pushing this ball up the hill. And so we get to the top of the hill and roll it back down onto our oppressors, folks. I'm Ed McKinley. I'm from up here in the Boston area. I'm just another guy in student loan justice who got fucked on his student loans. And as Alan said earlier today, no apology for my French. It's a good one, Alan. I'll probably be back later this week. Give Alan a night off and a rest. Hey, it's more tiring than you might think doing these things every night. But the truth is, we think they're incredibly important. We think it is incredibly important that we present a presence every single day and every single evening on this page. This is the most important instrument and asset that we have right now, is a means to communicate with each other. And that can be threatened. So let's take advantage of it. I'll see everybody probably Thursday night. And again, this is studentloanjustice.org live stream, October 6, 2020. I hope everyone's safe, well, as best you can be, and I'll see you again soon.